Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the
Hi.
Navigating
Good
the STEP
evening.
session. Yes, good evening. Welcome to Navigating the STEP Internship session by Code Club of Cummins College of Engineering for Women. We welcome all of you and especially our guest speaker for today, Miss Saumya Chaturvedi, who is the Google STEP Intern for 2023 and also the Google V Scholar. Welcome, Saumya. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Akanksha. It's my pleasure as well.
Yes, thank you. And Anagha will be taking this discussion further.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saumya, for joining this call with us today. We are really, really glad to have you here. As Akanksha said, you're here just to guide us all on this amazing opportunity by Google. That's the Google STEP internship. Well, before we dive into your entire journey as a Google STEP intern, let's start right from the basics as to what exactly Google STEP is, because I'm sure that a large audience is yet to be aware of what exactly Google STEP is.
Yeah, right. I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So Google STEP is technically a software engineering program. There used to be Google STEP hardware, but I believe that's been discontinued from the past 1 or 2 years. So Google STEP is primarily a software engineering program. It's an internship for females and people belonging to different minorities in India in the second year of their engineering program. If you're in a dual degree or if you're in a 5 year program, you could apply in your second or your third year, but primarily it's for the latter part of your second year in a BTech engineering degree. So, STEP is a very interesting program. Usually, you have a 10-week or a 12-week internship where you will be paired to different departments and different teams inside Google, and you will be able to work on an interesting project with very much future applications and potentials. And you will get obviously a wide vast experience into the world of how corporate works at such a large scalable level, and especially how big corporations like Google handle works from a software and from a professional perspective. So all in all, it's just a great lens for a kid from such a small level and no prior engineering experience to gain such an industrial experience. Just to reiterate, it's open only for women in India, and it's also open to people from financial minorities and also from disabilities.
So, as you said that the applications are open only to the second year women students.
Yes.
So, when
Yes.
does the application process generally start? I mean, when can students expect the notification to be out?
Right. So timelines has been very altered, with Corona and everything. So timelines have been very different for the past 2-3 years. For me, last year the applications opened in December. The entire December the application was open, and the deadline was by the last 2-3 weeks. And that was when they started with the GOC as well, the Google Online Challenge. That is the second round after the resume selection. So applications initially used to be open earlier by November, but I highly doubt that would be the case this year as well. But do keep an eye out for applications in the month of November, but for sure they should be out by December. Usually, the timeline is that applications open in December, they'll give you 2 to 3 weeks of time to fill it, to apply with your resume, with your CV. Try not to delay, try to fill it as soon as the application portal opens because they might close it sooner. After that, the next 2-3 weeks are full of GOCs, which is the next online programming challenge, the Google Online Challenge. And post that, interviews are conducted in January, in February, all the way, sometimes up till March. And results you get 1 or 2 months after.
Great, great. So, one thing that excited me was, I mean, when you were introducing what Google Step is all about, what are the perks of Google Step? Can you give us the details about that? So, what does a student learn during this 10 to 12 weeks of internship?
Oh, definitely. It's a very unique and a very rewarding program because I think we're all aware that in the second year there are not a lot of student training opportunities. There are not a lot of internships, especially those open to female students. So, this is definitely one of the rewarding opportunities that one can apply for. So, exclusivity gives it a big advantage. Other than that, it is a great opportunity where you can start your career in such an amazing company. So even if you don't have any prior experience of how projects are made, of how tech stack is used, of how different levels of a software in progress interact with each other. So there are front end layers, there are back end layers, there are of course the planning and the technical design that is gone before the programming of the project has even begun. And there are the later stages of user research, of UI, of seeing data analytics and how a certain feature or a certain product is interacting with the audience. And you try to see all of these different layers of work in the progress create such a beautiful product. Other perks like that, materialistic perks, of course there's a very big stipend. There is very exclusivity that is granted to the program. In my year there were only 40 interns from across the country. So being part of such an exclusive batch and being able to interact with people from different experiences, and having this wide-eyed lens into just
True.
corporate life in general. You get to interact with people from working in different teams in Google, because networking is a really big aspect of the job profile as well. You only get so many weeks, you should use them to the best to learn from every single person over there. So
Absolutely. So now that we've got a clear understanding of what exactly Google Step is all about, I think this is the right time to start with the detailing of how the entire process kickstarts with the applications being floated to the people. How do we just start with it, and how should the preparation be like? Could you just take us through rounds of interviews, what you went through during all of this?
definitely. So my experience was definitely applying to the company through the on-campus applications. I had some eye on the off-campus applications as well, but fortunately, my college was one of the colleges where Google came first. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise where I was one of the first people interviewing. So I kind of did not have any lens of what to expect. But I was also the first to get done with it and then just chill without having any anticipation or anxiety over it. So, if I'm being honest, I did not have a lot of DSA knowledge or experience like 4 or 5 months before the applications loaded. I was not that person. I only started actively preparing in the months of, I would say, August, September. November was when I was most focused on DSA, and applications opened in December for us. So, I prepared extensively data structures and algorithms. That is what is most asked. There are different ways you need to prepare for the 2 rounds, that is GOC and interviews, but more or less the concepts asked are the same. So when you're preparing for the online programming challenge, what you have to target is kind of precision. You need to be able to do those questions. Not the questions aren't going to be really hard. They aren't, if you guys have practiced on lead code, they aren't lead code hard questions. They are more or less easy or medium questions, but you have to be able to get done with them within the stipulated time. I believe it's 90 minutes to solve 2 questions. So you need to target a breadth of knowledge as opposed to depth in topics. You need to know a little bit about everything, but not so much that is expected of a typical third year student or a fourth year student. So, the first steps would definitely be to cover your theory. You need to know what topics you're studying, the basics of basic data structures like arrays, like linked lists, and the basic algorithms. A little bit of things on the tougher side as well, like dynamic programming. You need to know the basics about those things. And the way I try to advise students preparing is that you don't need to know the solution to every single problem that exists. You just need to be able to form 2 to 3 different solutions as soon as you see a problem. Doesn't really matter if none of those solutions lead you to the right answer. You just need to have some approaches going into the question. Questions shouldn't blindside you. That's what is important for me. Confidence in what you know and what you don't. So when you reach that level, you should know that you've been preparing well for the internship. So the initial level would be preparing data structures and algorithms. The best ways to do is by practicing different questions. There are a lot of, I would say, flag bearer questions that are very famous for particular topics, for particular companies, for particular opportunities, for particular beginner levels, and that's what we're aiming for. So you will be able to find a lot of lists online, a lot of resources. If not, exploration is the best helper. So try to go with what your learning style suits best, and just get done with all of those different topics. And once you're confident in the theory, you can start with questions. And once you're confident with the easy questions, you can move on your levels, so on and so forth. So that would be preparation for GOC. Preparation for interviews requires a lot more different skills. You need to be able to communicate your answers. You need to be more of a problem solver rather than someone who just knows the concepts. So if you're given a question, you'll need to be able to walk someone else through what you're thinking, through the two, three different approaches you have, and why you chose one particular one. What does it optimize? Does it optimize time complexity or space complexity? Is it very much pertinent to the problem at hand? What if I change one variable of this problem, make it a different problem, and how does your solution change then? So all of these are interesting questions that you need to prepare for as and when you're preparing for those interviews. And of course, communication. Having good communication skills is a very important parameter. I would say one of the uh, it's a parameter more important than your actual problem solving skills, because if you're not really able to showcase that in the best way, then isn't really going to be as beneficial. So for that, I do have some tips as well, but this is more or less the roadmap, the more or less the way it looks like. If you want to know the timeline, then for me, since it was on campus, I was done with the GOC by the second last week of December, and I had my interview in the on January 9th. So it was like the second week of January. And then I got my results a month later. People who applied off campus, they had their interviews as late as mid February, end of February, and then they got the results later too.
All right. So the first round must have definitely been the resume shortlisting, right? So
Right.
even before you apply for the GOC. So how did your resume look like, and what are the things that the industry or any company looks for, not just for Google Step, but any company? What are the things that they look for in a resume? Because yours should stand out from the others. So what is that one thing that the resume should have?
It should, and it's a good point you mentioned the resume, because I remember I didn't mention that as one of the first rounds, because there really is nothing much you can do about it. There are some particular templates you can follow, but I'm trying to find if I can find the resume I submitted at that time. If I do find it, I'll show it to everyone. But basically, there are good templates online. I would very much suggest not using any of the MS Word or any of those templates. Try to go to this website called Overleaf. There is overleaf.com, and there you will find latex resume templates, which are made in this language called latex, LATEX. Uh, it is very much similar to uh, HTML in the way that you can code the margins, you can code the logos that you put on, you can code the different ways you format the text and how it needs to be shown. You can make your own objects for, say, a resume item. So it is a very good programming language, but it makes your resume look very systematic. So I followed some templates, latex templates on Overleaf, and that's how I used to create my own resume. I'd say the V program helped provide me some sample resumes I could follow. I will send you guys those links as well.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and basically just try to showcase everything you've done till now. I would say it is kind of compulsory to have at least one or two projects on your resume, even if you've not had the opportunity to make one right now. I would say it doesn't need to be anything too fancy. You just need to show your application of everything you've learned till now into something tangible that can be a GitHub repository, or it can be just something that you've seen from a YouTube tutorial, from a course as well. Doesn't matter. It just needs to show some practical application of things you've learned. And then you can just mention your CGPA, the courses you've taken, the different responsibilities you've had. The way I would say a resume works is it's kind of a reflection of your personality. and the way you want to showcase your personality best is all of the skills that will work in your favor for this job profile. So yeah, if don't mention the third prize you got in Bharatnatyam in 5th standard, but if dancing is an important part of your personality and you've taken courses, you've won competitions, and you've done it for maybe 10 12 years at end, definitely mention it. One non-characteristic heading One non-characteristic section I had in my resume was technical and non-technical courses I took, because learning is a very big part of my personality. I really like taking courses even if they're not related to engineering. I took some courses on introduction to psychology, on human behavioral biology, and all of these MIT open course where, so all of these courses that are free to access for everyone. And I really wanted to show that, I learned these things, I really like them, and this is kind of a big part of my personality, so I had sections for them as well. You can do that stuff too. I've seen people mention certifications. If you're a person who learns by courses, mention the certifications you have. Mention the I I'm from the ECA branch, so I did not mention the courses I've taken in college. But if you're in CSE and you have relevant coursework, do mention that. And uh, mention other sections, extracurricular activities, positions of responsibilities, whatever you want. It just needs to be a window to your soul, and it needs to be relevant to this position.
All right, very, very true and very practical advice. Also, another point that I'd like to cover is mostly whenever we ask for advice from our seniors, we always get advices like what is to be done on the resume. So
Hmm.
I'd like to even go on a on an opposite way, in an opposite way, that what are the things that should never be put in a resume? What are the things that we should never ever put? Is there anything like that?
Um, for starters, things that are very unrelated to a software engineering profile. Uh, yeah, I did comedy stand up over here. I did this dance competition over there. All of that stuff, if it shows a different side of you that has been built over years and it showcases hard work or something else, then yes, it's important. But if nothing, and if you're just stringing achievements just to make that page last till the end and not have any blank space, then that's probably not a
True.
good opportunity. So kind of just leave things empty, even if you feel like there's not a lot to write. That's okay, you're just in your second year, you're not supposed to have a lot of things done. And if I'm being honest, I've seen people who got selected in the STEP internship and they don't really have very interesting projects or a lot of extracurriculars, or even a strong foundation of software engineering things on their resume. So there isn't a pattern that you need to follow, there isn't a shortcut there. I would highly advise you, and I would really like to tell you that the resume shortlisting round is very arbitrary. At most, the person who's going to be looking at your resume has like 30 to 45 seconds to decide if your resume goes further or not. That resume is not a verdict on who you are, it isn't a verdict on your skills, and it isn't an indicator of whether you are eligible for this position or not. It's very
Correct.
arbitrary. So it doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be something that you just completely ignore. Do put some thought into it, but just leave it and move on. That's what I'd say.
All right, great. So moving on to the next part, that is the GOC round. What can we expect in the GOC round? And as you already covered the points as to how to prepare during
Right.
the GOC round, what are the things that is supposed to be done 1 to 2 weeks prior to the online challenge?
Right. So, you will get into the habit of solving for online challenges as you move from second year to third year, when you will have to apply for mainly internships. So, basically, just try solving questions for now. I would say the GOC, as compared to other online assessments, is a little different because Google focuses more on the problem solving aspects. So, you might not get questions that are particularly from one algorithm or from one data structure. You might get questions about bit manipulation, you might get questions about these long word problems that are not inherently any one data structure, but they're just more about solving this particular problem. So try to keep your aptitude in check. The questions, the difficulty level of the questions asked wasn't that much. I would say it was elite code easy to elite code medium. So make sure you have your concepts clear in that sense. The GOC is typically 90 minutes long and you only have to solve two questions. You have to write the most efficient solution to the problems. So when you're solving questions on any platform, say you're doing it on LeetCode, on CodeChef, on Codeforces, whichever one you pick, I personally choose LeetCode because it's very beginner friendly and it has a vast portfolio of questions to practice from. So when you're practicing over there, give yourself a time limit of how much you expect yourself to take when you're solving this question. If you're starting with an easy question, say you're going to take 20 minutes. If a medium, then say 30. If it's a hard question, then say 40 or 50 minutes. Take that time to think about different approaches, take that time to come up with different ways to solve the problem, and whatever you can make up with that time, just do that. And then when that time is over, look at the solution and move on. Don't look at just one solution, look at different solutions to see how they used different time complexities, which one takes lesser time, which one takes more space, stuff like that, so that you can have a conversation with yourself about understanding कि oh ये चीज ऐसे हुई होगी, इसको ऐसे करना था. Try to kind of make sense about the problem itself, not just learn how they came to a solution.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's how I would advise looking at problem solving on LeetCode. On LeetCode, you have this one other great thing is that when you're solving one particular question, you go to the side panel and you see this heading of similar questions. So they could change one or two variables about this question and have you solve a completely different question, but it is still very much similar to what you learned just now. So you get a good practice of testing yourself and what you learned, and then you get to move on with that knowledge. So it's a little so that platform is, I think, very very friendly. You can play with the different difficulty levels, with the different topics that are being tested on. And I would advise 1 or 2 weeks before the GOC, just try revising the questions you've already practiced. Make sure you remember things, because like I said, don't spend too much time on one question. Your point isn't to cultivate solutions out of nowhere. You're just learning things for the first time. Even if things don't strike you, it's not wise to spend one day practicing just one question, because you're able to, because you're thinking of the POV of cracking it as opposed to just understanding, learning from it and moving on. So that's what I would advise. Take lesser time on questions. Try to cover a variety of questions, but when you're covering a variety of questions, don't focus on just solving the one thing and moving on. Try to find patterns. Try to find, okay, the other question which was of a similar topic, I tried to do level A because level B didn't work, but this is the one where level B seems to work, so I'll try this thing. So try finding patterns and try solving questions as opposed to learning solutions.
Thank you so much. It was really, like, a practical approach. Also, a follow-up question on this, that as a Google Step intern, I'm sure that the journey wouldn't have been really very smooth for you. There might have been many rough days. So how should students deal with those rough days, and what should people be doing during that time?
Oh, it was really hard, and it is going to be really hard. Not just from my experience, there is one other friend who is a step intern. I was also part of the Google V program, and if any of you are part of that program over here, we used to have classes early in the morning. It was a completely different coursework. It was like actual classes, actual assignments, and compulsory attendance. And uh, because all of these courses were mainly programming and computer science based, my main degree was electronics and communication. So I was kind of juggling all of these different things and also trying to make time to solve questions on my own. So I have my own understanding of things. It gets really hard, and in these times I would really advise you to practice DSA and go through this whole procedure with someone else, with a friend group. Try to I had a really supportive friend group, and we had a Discord server where we would study different things at our own different times. And if we came upon something like an aha moment, like, oh, this is a good tip, like, oh, I learned this thing that is just so revolutionary, we would create this collective note system over there where we would all post the different things we would have learned, so we would have a good ecosystem of learning from each other. So not just that, even if sometimes I didn't really want to do things, I would call someone else and we would solve questions on a call. We would ask each other, what did you learn? And see, giving contests is very hard. It was very annoying for me. So whenever I wanted to do that, I would make sure someone else kept me accountable after the contest we would solve questions together, and I would see, oh, she was able to solve one more question than me. I need to pick my game up. Or if I see, oh, she's doing so well, I want to be like her. So it really helps to have someone else do that thing with you. You can also practice for other things together, but you just need to remember that you're putting in effort that not a lot of people are, and it's a very fruitful thing. And even though days might be hard, the only thing that should motivate you is your own self development. Remember, this is not just one internship program you're preparing for everything else that follows afterward. So even if you don't make the Google Step internship, there are other programs, there are other things that you need to be the best version of yourself for. And so that is why all of this is so important. This way, your entire purpose of being isn't just this one internship program, but it is to be a better version of yourself. And that is always a better goal that you can never completely reach. And so it will always keep on motivating you. That's what I try to remind myself.
Thank you so much, Soumya. I just love the way you just explain everything so well. And Akanksha, would you like to take this forward?
Sure. As Anagha mentioned, Saumya, that is really solid advice that all of us will be taking note of. So usually for second year students who are currently in their third semester, they have a data structures subject, right? So what would you suggest that second year students who have not done DSA till now, who are starting from scratch and who are beginners,
Hmm.
would do to prepare themselves for Google Step internship process and to prepare in a way that their chances of being selected are maximized? Is there any
Right.
particular is there any particular resource or DSA sheet that they should use?
Yes, yes, definitely. So if you're just starting out, don't worry. There's a lot of time, and basically, the importance I would put on is building your own fundamentals first, because it's very important to learn things right when you're learning them from scratch. Because if you build the wrong fundamentals, then over them, everything else would just go wrong. So, in terms of learning the theory, you mentioned key people do have the data structures, and sometimes people have an algorithms course as well, design of algorithms course in the third semester as well. If you have good resources, if you have good teachers for that, go attend every class, just go crazy on the assignments and everything, learn everything you can from every single class you're attending. If you kind of feel key classes are a little futile, I'm not really understanding a lot from this system of studying, don't worry, there's a lot of stuff online. There's this website called scalar.com. So if you're learning data structures in Python like I was, there is a data structures in Python course in Scalar. uh, if you're learning it in C++ or Java or any other language too, there's a lot of courses online. All you have to do is search. There are courses led by teachers that have good theory, that have good video lectures on websites like Scalar and stuff. But there are also courses by universities. Like I mentioned, MIT Open Courseware before. These courses are a little more of an of on an advanced level. Like they are for people in their undergraduate university courses, but they could be a little more intensive, and they're not exactly for the purposes of clearing interviews and for clearing job opportunities. They're more for learning. Like I remember MIT's course for graphs had this assignment on graphs where they wanted to create a graph based data structure of the entire MIT campus, and all of the important landmarks will be the points and the vertices of the graph, and you had to find the best way of going from this point to that point on the campus, and you had to traverse all the different ways and try to find which one is the shortest, stuff like that. So all of these assignments are really fun, but they kind of really require you put on a lot of time. So if you feel like you don't have that, don't worry, just go through the basic theory, and once you are a little bit confident in theory, go and start with the most basic questions on lead code. There are courses that will advise you the perfect roadmap of starting from beginner knowledge and going all the way to the most advanced topics like dynamic programming and stuff like that. Again, that's why I mentioned earlier, it really depends on what your learning style is. If you are somebody who will just trust who will just trust the course and trust the mentor ki okay, you'll tell me what I have to study, I'll do that, and then I'll move forward. Then courses are very good for you. They'll kind of bring forward that set of routine, that structure to your learning plan. There are a lot of good courses online. There is Strivers course, where they kind of give you this one question and you have some time to solve it. If not, there's a video solution, which is amazing if you don't like to put that much effort into research. I personally am a person who did not like courses that much. I really liked an exploratory style of learning where I get to figure out what I want to learn and where I want to learn it from. So lead code very much helped me. My theory was kind of covered in the classes I attended for the V program, but I kind of relied on the scalar course as well, and a little bit of the MIT and other university courses too. So if you're that exploratory person, go ahead, research. There's so many resources on the internet. Hopefully you'll find something that fits your learning style. Once you're done with the theory, go to lead code, and that's where you start solving questions. You have to go to the topic. Say you just studied the theory for arrays, you kind of have a little bit of understanding of what arrays are like. So you go to arrays in lead code, and then you select the acceptance rate as the highest percentage. So acceptance rate is just कितने सारे लोग उसको पहली try में question को solve कर पाए. So you're going to start with the easiest question. You go with the easy difficulty, and you go with the highest acceptance rate, and you see the question what comes first. Give yourself 20 minutes because it's an easy question. If you're able to solve it, great, move on. Go to the similar questions and check the next questions in the list, or try increasing the acceptance rate a little, or try changing the topic you're solving for. Whatever it is, tweak the settings according to what you like. And if you couldn't solve it in 20 minutes, no worries, you're just starting. Go look at the different solutions, figure out, learn, make notes if you can, if that helps you, and then move on to the next question. But in 2 to 3 days, make sure you come back and see that you still remember the solution for what you, at least you remember the strategy that was applied. So that was one of the ways I really liked studying. Just going through the different questions, different resources available, learning at my own pace. If you're someone to whom this practice sounds like a nightmare, go for courses, go for a very routine study. It definitely depends on what you are. There is no right or wrong over here. um, if you are doing questions on LeetCode or some other platform, most of the times you'll be selecting the questions you want to choose, right? So if you want to do the opposite thing, be tested like you would be tested in the GOC round, then try for contests, which are these timed kind of tests. Like you would have a 90-minute test or a 90-minute contest where you would be given 4 questions and you have to solve all of them, or however many you can within the given timeline. So contests on LeetCode, there's a weekly contest on Sunday, but you have to get up in the morning for that. It's from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And then there's a bi-weekly contest every other Saturday from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Even if you feel like you know nothing, absolutely nothing in the world, just sit in the contest, try to get through whatever understanding you can of the 4 questions given within the timeline. And if you're not able to solve those questions, and even if you are able to solve them after the contest, you need to do this thing called upsolving, which is where you go through the questions given in the contest and you go through the different types of solutions you can, and then again you do this thing where you learn from different solutions, you try to find patterns, and then you try to make sure that the next time you would be given this question, you would remember the best way to tackle it. So all these things are very important strategies, and then it wouldn't make any difference whether you're a beginner or whether you have some experience. This would be a very comprehensive way of learning all the concepts and the best ways to solve your way through any question.
Thank you. That is a very insightful answer. One more follow up question on the same topic, that if someone is starting from today, how many days should they give for one data structure? And how much time should they dedicate daily, assuming that they're starting from today, to increase their chances?
Right. So I'll kind of give you a list of the more important title header wale topics. So you start with arrays, right? I'm just typing them so I kind of remember them. Then you have linked lists. Linked lists are important. Synchronologically moving in the list, you then move on to stacks and queues. That is an important data structure as well. After that, you start with the big guns. You get to trees. And then after trees, you go to graphs. And then after graphs, some people do those chotu motu algorithms, like, there's backtracking, Stack ranking isn't a, it's a harder algorithm. But okay, there's greedy and there's other algorithms that you can use, and then finally you start with dynamic programming. So all in all, if these are the main topics one is studying for, these are what, these are 7 topics. And there is like, I would say 2 months left till your first GOC. Or even if we're being a little generous, there's 2 months left. If we are being conservative, I would say there is 1 month left. You have 1 month to do 7 topics. How much time are you going to give that? Just 30 divided by 7, you have like 4 or 5 days for one simple topic. But that's the loose timeline you give yourself. But if you're being honest, arrays just has probably very less theory and more different types of questions you need to solve. So there is more practice and there is more problem solving for arrays. For graphs, there is a little bit more theory. When you're first encountering it, there are different algorithms you need to remember. Structure of a graph is pretty new to some people. You need to remember that, so you can give yourself a little more time in graphs. Trees, there are different types of trees. You're not really asked a lot of different varieties for step internship, but it's important to know there's binary tree, there's a BST, there's a binary search tree, there are AVL trees and other stuff that someone might ask you if you're feeling very overconfident. But generally you don't need to know all those things. So you can give yourself 4 or 5 days for every single data structure or algorithm you're solving, but definitely readjust that according to your understanding or according to whatever is more important at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And for first year students who will be given this opportunity next year, what would your advice be to them? How should they prepare for Google Step, and which they will be encountering next year?
My advice is go crazy. You have all the time in the world, just have the most fun you can. You can do all of those crazy achhe wale courses I mentioned, where people give you just the most amazing assignments for learning the most basic data structures. People, one of my friends in this another college was given the assignment of creating their own version of Spotify. So you create your own Spotify, and that is supposedly an assignment for graphs. So you'll find so many fun assignments on the internet. You have a lot of time to learn these things the right way. And so you don't have to create a roadmap, you don't have to create a very restrictive routine for studying. All you have 1 more year. You can really explore computer science this way. You can make interesting projects. You can figure out whether you like development more or whether you like machine learning or all of these other domains. If you want to go into competitive programming, I realize I haven't mentioned that on the call once. Competitive programming isn't really, for people who don't know, it's kind of the application of math into computer science a lot, and it's a way for you to solve all of these questions you'll see in contests and stuff like that. It's a way to solve these questions faster while using these like people used to use abacus and quick math when they were kids, right? This is a way of applying maths into these problems. So it's definitely way more harder than DSA. It requires a lot more practice than DSA, but it's not something that is required for getting into these step programs. I did not know any CP, I'm going to be honest, and it's not a requirement. So you can take this time to explore CP if you like that. You can take this time to explore artificial intelligence, of web development, of going through these different data structures and learning them in a fun way from fun professors, from fun books, and do these fun assignments. So there's a lot of time and there's no need to put any pressure on yourself. I guess first year is also a fun time to be exploring a lot of new things in university life. So definitely prioritize them too. Extracurriculars and everything never hurt anyone. They're just amazing things to have on your resume. That would be my advice.
I agree. One thing you mentioned is the Google V Scholars program for first year students. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Right. The Google V program is, it stands for the Google Women Engineers program. So every year they have, I would say, 30,000 applicants, and from that they create a cohort of 200 or 250 people in their batch. So the applications for this open around January. I remember the last week of January was when the applications opened. uh, I guess that's not really helpful advice to any of you now. But if you have to advise a junior, they open in January, and there are 5 rounds of selection. So there is they don't really ask for a resume at that point, but after that there is an aptitude round, a logical reasoning round, and then there is an English preparedness round where they check the verbal and spoken ability of comprehensive and grammar and different just languages of just different English. So after the English round, there is a coding programming round. They give you different resources to prepare for that. You can give those questions in Python, in C++, in Java, in 4 or 5 different languages. And then finally, there is a personal interview. And the interview is conducted by those people to kind of see whether you would be a good fit for the program. And after these 5 rounds, if you're selected, then you're in for one hell of a ride, because I have found this program to be a very big component of my professional life. They don't teach only technical skills. Of course, technical skills are very amazing. They have the best mentors over there, people with years of expertise teaching different programming paradigms, project work, just DSA, data structures and algorithms as well, but also just problem solving on a lot more pure level. And not just technical training, there's also corporate training. There are lessons on accountability, on teamwork, on how you're supposed to react in these professional situations, and just trains you to be a good professional in corporate environments. And there are collaborative projects, there are offline in-person boot camps in triple IT Hyderabad, and that was an amazing experience. And it's kind of just a very amazing community of strong women engineers from different parts of the country, as well as mentors who act more like friends and are able to advise me on any sort of situation I can be a part of. So it's been very helpful. And without the V program, I had no idea of what STEP internship was. I did not know anything about it. So I would say V is very much responsible for giving me all of these things and making me a better version of the person I would have wanted to be one day.
That sounds so amazing. Just to be clear, that this V program is for first year students, right?
Yes, it's for first year students, and it's a 2 year mentorship. Oh, I forgot to mention these details. It's a 2 year mentorship program, and you also get a 1 lakh scholarship of it in different tranches. So it's just a amazing opportunity for, again, just like STEP. It's a very different opportunity from STEP, but it's an amazing opportunity for any first year female. And yes, it's for women only.
Yes. So now we'll be moving towards the Q&A section. So our viewers, if you have any questions for Saumya, please put it in the chat.
Any questions? Come on, she's the best person who can guide us. You can ask questions.
She has given such a comprehensive session,
Obviously, yeah.
so it's difficult for them to have questions because she's covered literally every part.
Truly, honestly, it was superb for every question. And all those implementable solutions by students, we can actually implement it with due course of time. So thank you so much. We're really glad to have you here. Any more questions? Final call. Any more questions? Yeah, we do.
All right, interview prep. Yes, so there aren't really any sites I encountered for interview prep. I think there is this one website called interviewbit interviewbit.com, but again, I think that is more or less just for DSA preparation, a theoretical and practical problem solving understanding. I'll give you this one tip I had for preparation for interviews myself. So I told you that I prepared with a bunch of friends, right? So we would do this thing called mock interviews. So we would kind of get on a call. One person would act as an interviewer, the other as an interviewee. If I was to give an interview to my friend, I would say, "ठीक है, I've done arrays, I've done linked lists, I've done stacks and queues. Ask me any question from this, and we're going to act like this is an actual interview." So she'll kind of pick a question according to the topics I've mentioned. She'll pick it according to the difficulty of questions I mentioned, and then she'll kind of give that question to me. But instead of just giving me the link of that question key, okay, just read it and solve it on Meet. Instead of that, she will give me the question in bits and pieces with revealing very little information in different sentences, because the way you're asked questions in interviews is that you're given a vague understanding of what the question asked you to do, and then you have to ask clarifying questions ki, okay, is this what you meant, is this what the answer is supposed to be, is what is the format of the answer, what does it look like, what are we prioritizing, what are we optimizing. So you're supposed to ask questions to clarify details. So when you're the interviewee in this mock interview, your friend is going to give you a very basic question, and you have to ask questions to clarify the constraints. And then once those are clarified, you just communicate with your friend as if they were an interviewer. You tell them, okay, this is what I'm thinking, these are the different ways we could think of this reminds me of that question which was solved in this way, so I'm thinking I could go the XYZ route, I could do that. You kind of communicate with each other. Your friend doesn't give you any hints other than how an interview is supposed to act like. And if you are very much stuck, you aren't able to come up with anything, you can tell the interviewer even that. You can say, give me 1 minute, I need to drink some water, I feel very nervous. All of that is completely normal. It happens all the time. uh, and if you have no idea of how to proceed, you can ask, don't ask them for a hint, they just give you hints themselves. But you have to be very cautious of listening to them when they're talking, because they won't just say, here's hint. You have to listen to them and interpret it the way you want, and kind of work along with them, as opposed to them asking you and you answering. It's supposed to be collaborative in that sense. So my friend and I did that, and it was a very good practice for practicing, communication, of social skills, of listening to each other. Even when you are the interviewer, you're the one taking the interview, you would think of solving the question you've assigned to someone in a different way, and then you'll see someone's thought process, your friend's thought process, and it would be solving the question in a different way. Even if you feel like, oh, they're doing a mistake, you wouldn't point it out until the end of the interview. And if they're thinking they're making a mistake, it would be difficult sometimes for you to point it out unless they really act out of it and make a mistake. Like, I'll be honest, in my interview, I was asked a question where I had to do something regarding a factorial, and I was solving in Python. And I completely forgot that there is a module in Python for calculating factorials, and so I was just doing it the very rudimentary way of take n minus 1 factorial by n factorial. So it was basically a denominator which could have been cancelled into a normal fraction, but I was still solving it like a factorial. And so a little later, my interviewer pointed out to me, you can just do this, you know that, right? And I said, oh, my bad, completely sorry. And because I was in a good mindset that day, I didn't ruminate on that one mistake and then spoil the rest of my interview thinking, oh my god, I couldn't even do this. What's the point of anything? Because if you focus too much on your mistakes, you're going to mess up everything else that comes forward. So you have to realize it's a completely okay situation. Everyone makes silly mistakes, and you just have to go with the flow and move on. So being in a good mindset at the time of your interview is also really important. That's what I would say.
Great, great. We also have another question. Someone is asking, could you give us details about the actual internship? That is, the internship that you get after the step.
Hmm. Um, I'm not sure which kind of details you're asking me, but okay, I opted for a 10-week internship. You're supposed to reach there. They give you a very, very kind stipend. It's a very good stipend considering we're just second year people. And we get there. There are offices in Bangalore, in Pune. People got the option of being in Pune too, and in Hyderabad. So there are different teams you're going to work with. You don't know which team you're going to work with before you get there. So the day you start, there is a combined orientation for everyone, regardless of which team, which office they're working for. And the orientation is really fun. They walk you through a lot of different experiences. Different leaders give speeches, and there is just a lot to learn from every single moment you're experiencing. And after the orientation, it was a day long orientation, we were told, we were contacted by our managers, by our teams, and then we were told which team we were going to be working with. I was a part of the GPay team in Bangalore. I was a part of the credit sub team inside GPay, and my project was about creating a new feature from scratch in the credit section of GPay. It was a really fun project, because it was involving work in both the front end and back end perspectives. And what I was doing was I was creating a feature from scratch. So I had to learn a lot about how other features were operating. So I had to learn the life cycle that an application goes through, and how the different layers of front end, back end storage interact with each other. And it was just a really fun process that, even after spending a lot of days in the office, it didn't feel like I did enough work, because there was always so much more to learn. In terms of the actual tech stack, the tools and programming languages, there is a rendition of every single tool we use inside. There is an internal tool for everything. And it takes time get used to all of the stimuli, all of these new things, these new people, and this new experience. And I would be honest, it's a very fun and it's a very holistic experience going through it. You make so many friends, you meet so many new people. Google kind of puts a lot of pressure on the fact you're not supposed to work on holidays, so they kind of push you and they kind of push you to go celebrate the weekend, or go somewhere else. You can go ghumne over here. There is fun things to explore over there. They just don't reply to you on the weekends if you ask them a work related question. So they're very fun like that. There is equal work, equal play. So the actual internship is a great holistic experience. It rarely requires the things you learned, like DSA and all of that stuff. You already have to learn new things when you're there on the job. The learning never stops. So you can't prepare in any way for any of the experience you're about to have if you get selected. So in both ways, it's just very entertaining. It's very exciting, kind of like a roller coaster ride. And it was just an amazing experience, an unparalleled experience for me.
Great. We also have two questions on the V program, so we'll just combine it into one. First question says that could you please guide the first year students on how to prepare for the V program? And the second part says, do we have any such similar program for second years?
I don't think there are any similar. The steps is similar programs. There is an Uber Star program, which is the internship program for for the company Uber. They have a similar surround, but their pre-internship criteria is a little different. So they have an online programming round first, and then uske baad they have a one-day ideation round in Hyderabad. I remember last year they called all of the applicants to Hyderabad for one day. They were given different problems. It was kind of like, a hackathon where you have to go through the different problem statements. You will be made a team on the spot, and usi din pe you have to work for a solution on the problem you're given. So Uber Star is a pretty good program, and after that there are interviews, and if you pass the interviews, then you get an internship in Google, in an internship in Uber. So Uber Star is a good program. Other than that, I'm not really sure if there are any similar programs. For V, the programming questions they ask are really not that hard. They ask you questions similar to if you took computer science in 11th or 12th grade. Then the basic questions about creating a Fibonacci sequence, or about creating a pyramid of numbers, or like creating those star wala pattern, or creating different series, recursion practice karne wale questions, stuff like that. So just go through the basics for computer science. The important thing before that are the aptitude wale questions. So do practice अच्छे से for the aptitude and logical reasoning route. Again, the what you need to practice is the standard aptitude wale questions that you will get applying anywhere. Go through those. For the English test, you don't need to be a maestro, you don't need to be a literary critique, but you need to have enough understanding of, solving those comprehension questions, passage based questions, a little bit of basic grammar knowledge, and being able, it was a verbal test as well, so you had to speak in some instances as well and also listen to spoken passages. So if that is something that you struggle with, then you need to practice for that too, because all the classes and everything were primarily in English. They are primarily in English. So if you aren't a native English speaker, no one is a native. If you don't have practice with English speaking and understanding, then you should focus on that as well. But other than that, that's how you should prepare for the V program.
So I hope that answered your question. And there's another short question, that what's the duration of the internship, the step and the other one?
uh, the Uber internship was 8 weeks long. In STEP, you were given an option. You were given to choose either a 10-week long internship or a 12-week long internship. And you also get to choose when you start. They might not always follow what you've chosen, but again, that's given an option as a convenience according to what college role and stuff you have. So, yeah, 12-week at max.
Also, another last question for you.
Yeah.
I think you must have already faced this question earlier, that which is the best language to tackle DSA questions? Python, C++, Java.
Hmm. Again, there isn't really a best language. It really depends on what you feel comfortable with. I know why you're asking this, because a lot of years ago even Python wouldn't have been granted as a good language to prepare for such problem solving in centers. But right now there's a lot of freedom, especially in Google. You get the option to solve the online GOC wala round in like as much as 20 to 25 different languages. That's how many options you get. So you can practice in Python, you can practice in C++, in Java. If you're asking from if you have practiced Python or C++ in your 11th and 12th standard, if you feel already comfortable with that, then go ahead with it. But if you're asking as a beginner who has no prior experience, then I would say Python is a little more of a beginner friendly language. There is a very different way of handling concepts for problem solving in Python than in any other language. So if you want to go the typical Vala route, then C++ is a lot more favored. Java is as well. But again, just if you're a first year, you have time to explore. Go learn different languages, see how work is done in them, pick the one you find the best, and just make sure to work hard in that.
Meenan, I hope that answered your question. And are there any more questions?
I would like to add one point that, as an answer to Shavni's question, that are there any such opportunities for second year students as well? Code Club has compiled a very comprehensive sheet for such opportunities that we have shared in our community. So do check that out.
So, with no more questions left, Soumya, we are really, really thankful to have you here. You were so patient throughout, answering every single question. Thank you very, very much. Akanksha, please do the honors, the last vote of
Yes.
thanks.
Thank you so much. I mean, Soumya's exams are going on right now, I assume, and she has taken her personal time out for us. We are really appreciative of it, and I'm sure all of us, we have first year students as well in this meet, and second year students as well, have benefited greatly from this session. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a very nice opportunity, and you guys were very respectful. And thank you for Akanksha for handling this program really well. It was really nice being here. Thank you so much, and I wish all of you guys all the best in everything else you try on.
Thank you
And
so
don't be
much.
deterred and demotivated by anything.
Thank you very much.
No
Yes, so
worries.
with this, we conclude the navigating the Google STEP internship session.